Hi everybody, it's me, Teresa Perrin, and I want to discuss AVCT with you, and I'm going to break this video into two parts. This is part one. So if you saw the other video, I hope that you're watching this one as well, because this one is going to be very important. It's going to go over the filings, and it's going to go over dates that we all need to be aware of regarding the stock and when those 10 million warrants can be exercised, as well as when they can issue more dilution. So anyways, guys, please remember, nothing I say is financial advice. We're going to start by taking a look at this week's filings. Please smash that like button for me. I'd greatly appreciate it, as it helps with the algorithms and also helps spread the word on AVCT. We need some new investors to come into this, guys. All right, guys, I'm sure most of you are aware, but those of you that are not, we are in compliance now. So there's no fear of us being delisted or taken to OTC land because of our minimum share price or because we're not valued where we're supposed to be. Everything has been cleared up and we are good to go in that effect. Now, I'm pulled out the important parts of the recent filing. And again, guys, I didn't update you guys right away on this for a couple of reasons. One, I was extremely busy and I have a lot going on with a lot of my tickers. A lot of news has been coming out, which is kind of strange for this time of year, but I think it's because stocks have been beaten down so bad that, you know, people are trying to push them, you know, not people, but the CEOs and stuff are trying to push as much positive news as they can at people. But I also had water aerobics the night of this, and I was going to make the video last night. However, I needed a day to myself to just relax, so I didn't put out anything. So like I said, there's a lot to go over. I'm going to split it into two videos. I'm not going to read you the filing word for word. Basically, it was just, you know, making the prospectus effective, which we see right here. This is the notice of effectiveness, the S3, and this means that those 10 million warrants, they can be sold as shares as of this effective date. And we're going to talk about dates because technically as of this effective date, but according to the filing, that's not the exact date that they could use. So anyways, you saw this come out, the prospectus, and this is not 10 million new shares. So anybody watching this that's new, please be advised, there's a lot of FUD out there and people are trying to say when this came out that they did another offering. No, they absolutely did not. And in fact, they can't do another offering for 90 days from October 18th, which I have the date for you at the end of the video. I have two very important dates for you. So don't be fearful of that because they cannot do any new offerings for the whole month of December. But it is going to be diluted by these 10 million warrants, but this is something that we knew about going into this. Now, remember this date, October 18th, because this is the date of the prospectus that they filed, guys. And that's going to come into play when we get further along here. So, on November 25th, 2022, the company received a letter from the NASDAQ listing qualification staff confirming that the company complies with the alternative minimum 10 million stockholders equity requirement, and the matter is now closed. So just like I said earlier, and I just wanted to show you proof that, you know, this has been closed out by NASDAQ. They are in compliance, so we don't face any fears with that. Okay, so the 10 million share offering, which are currently warrants, there's a whole list right now in this prospectus that you need to be aware of as far as outstanding warrants. And I'm going to read this over because there's been a lot of questions that I've seen floating around and a lot of untrue information regarding the warrants. So hopefully this clears it up for anybody that holds them or is looking to buy them. So I'm going to read this part. Unless we indicate otherwise, all information in this prospectus is based on 32,470,006 shares of common stock outstanding as of November 15th, 2022, and excludes, as of that date, and it excludes all these warrants. So those aren't even counted in those 32,470,000 shares, okay? Keep that in mind. Approximately 75,531 shares of our common stock issuable upon the exercise of outstanding warrants with an exercise price of 15 cents per share. approximately 1,735,835 shares of our common stock issuable upon the exercise of outstanding warrants with an exercise price of $172.50 per share. Now, guys, the reason why it's so much per share is because of the reverse split. Like I had told everybody earlier, and people wanted to argue with me saying that that was not the case, it most certainly is. The warrants that were previously issued, because there's terminology in there that if they do a reverse stock split, then it gets price adjusted for the split. So now if you're playing with these warrants, the share price would need to go to $172.50 before you can exercise them. So please keep that in mind. 1,062,474 shares of our common stock underlying warrants issued December 2nd, 2021 to certain funds affiliated with Monroe Capital Management Advisors, LLC, with an exercise price of 0.0015 per share. Approximately 198,739 shares of our common stock issuable upon the vesting of restricted stock units, and the 10 million shares of our common stock underlying the purchaser's warrants with an exercise price of $1.80 per share. Now, guys, this $1.80 per share is basically what this conversation is going to be about and why this stock is about to take off this week, okay? Because if they want to exercise those 10 million warrants, they have to get the stock price above $1.80. Now, is it worth their while to exercise them for $1.80 by itself, if that's what they have to pay for it? No. So you better believe they're going to try to push this price much higher. Otherwise, they could just buy shares now much cheaper, right? But they have these warrants, and most likely they're going to try to use them. All right. Okay, this is a risk factor that I want you to all be aware of, and then we're going to talk about a date for this. It says, we may issue additional common stock resulting in stock ownership dilution. And guys, you better believe come January, if this is not sold, they're not going to have a choice. And I'm going to give you that date. They will dilute. In my honest opinion, I would be shocked if they do not. And they're telling you that right here. It says, future dilution may occur due to additional future equity issuance and or equity financing events by us, including any potential future restructuring of our outstanding indebtedness. In addition, we may raise additional capital through the sale of equity or convertible debt securities, which would further dilute the ownership interests of our stockholders. As of November 15th, 2022, we had outstanding warrants to acquire 12,873,840 shares of our common stock. I'm going to pause for a minute. So add that to those 30-something million shares we already have, okay? Because that's going to be the additional amount of shares that we equal after they exercise these warrants. And we know that 10 million of them are probably going to get exercised very soon, okay? And approximately 198,739 shares of our common stock will be issuable upon the vesting of restricted stock units. A significant number of such warrants are out of the money. Like I said, it's under $1.80, but the holders have the right to effect a cashless exercise of such warrants. All right, guys, a cashless exercise. Do they make a deal with them for a lower price, for less? It's possible. If a significant number of such warrants and stock options are exercised by the holders, the percentage of our common stock owned by our exercising stockholders will be diluted. Now, I'm going to tell you something. When I give you the date for January, you better believe that if they don't get that stock price up to where it becomes valuable to them to exercise these warrants, they are going to make a deal with them to dilute them for less. What we would like to see, and what I'm hoping happens, is that they pump this stock hard over the next week or two, send it up so that they exercise these warrants and make some money, but also give us a nice push to the upside, okay? Now, selling stockholders. In accordance with the terms of the purchase agreement, this prospectus generally covers the resale of the maximum number of shares of common stock issued or issuable upon exercise of the purchaser's warrants as of the trading day immediately preceding the date of the registration statement is initially filed with the SEC, because the number of shares of common stock issuable upon exercise of the purchaser's warrants may be adjusted. The number of shares that will actually be issued may be more or less than the number of shares being offered by this prospectus. The fourth column assumes the sale of all the shares of common stock offered by the selling stockholders pursuant to this prospectus. All right, so then you see this table, which is, their 5 million shares that they can have. They can only own 4.99% of the company at any time. So effectively, if they're going to own more than that by exercising, then they have to sell them. They can't just hold on to them, guys. Applicable percentage ownership is based on 32,470,006 shares of our common stock outstanding as of November 15, 2022. And based on, now this is the total number of shares that if they exercise these 10 million warrants will be in effect, 42,470,006 shares of our common stock outstanding after the offering. So guys, essentially it's a 25% dilution right off the bat. Please keep that in mind. All right, so this column lists the number of shares beneficially owned by the selling stockholders. So they have up to 5 million shares of common stock underlying the purchase warrants initially exercisable on December 4th, 2022. So I highlighted this because Monday is the first day that these can be exercised at a price of $1.80 per share, all of which shares are being registered for resale under this prospectus. So guys, the reason that you saw the 10 million shares, the prospectus being registered in the effective statement, is because without that, they cannot resell those shares. They had to register them for resale. So they've done that. And the first day that they can sell is Monday. Now, one of two things can happen. Please keep in mind what I just read to you. They can either make a deal where they say, we're going to let you sell them for less to get money, right? Or, basically, let's say they cut it in half and said you can exercise them for 90 cents, but you're only going to get 2,500,000 shares versus the 5 million. That's one thing they could do. Not to say they're going to, but they could. Or, guys, what I'm hoping happens is they drive this price up, making it worth their while to pay the $1.80 because they send it to the moon. And essentially, I would think if I were them, that their goal would be to get that gap fill and then to dump on us hard. So be prepared, because a dump will come following this run. And don't say I didn't warn you. Now, if you're in this for the potential buyout, be prepared, because I think a lot of you didn't realize that a buyout doesn't happen overnight and that you need to hold. How long? Nobody knows. So please don't listen to people saying that, it could be next week. It could be. Yeah, it could. But it could also be a year from now. We don't know. All right. So the other thing I highlighted was just the other person's stocks, because it's the same thing essentially, but there's two different companies that, as you can see, CVI Investments, and then whatever this volatility warrant thingy is, Master Fund. So those two are the two companies that own these 5 million shares each. And this is just telling you, for both of them, they cannot exercise them until December 4th, which is Monday. So that's why I think Monday, if they do not strike a deal, then we are going to see this stock rocket. And even if they do strike a deal, what if they decide to hold them and they send it anyways, even though they have less? It's possible. So it could be either of those two things. You need to be prepared for both situations, which is why I'm telling you. Now, the total number of shares of all classes of capital stock which the company shall have authority to issue is, this is important, guys, because this is talking about their ability to dilute further come January, and I'll give you that date at the end. 505 million, of which 500 million shares shall be the common stock for the par value of 0.0001 per share, and 5 million shares of preferred stock. Okay, so they have the ability to issue an additional 505 million shares, which would be freaking crazy dilution that we better pray that they don't think about doing anything even close to that. But I'm telling you all this in case you choose to hold, you know that this is a risk. And I'm not trying to scare you. I'm just trying to tell you reality. All right. In a concurrent private placement, we are also selling to the investors of the shares of common stock in this offering warrants to purchase up to 10 million shares at the private placement warrants. The private placement warrants, I went back to the original filing, guys, from October 18th. This is where I'm getting this from, and I'm telling you this because I'm going to give you a date. The private placement warrants will have an exercise price of $1.80 per share, and they are exercisable 45 days after their issuance and will remain exercisable for a period of 2 years from such date. All right, so 45 days from October 18th is December 4th. And you can go into your Google and just write, what is October 18th plus 90 days? And it will tell you December 4th. Now, this is the other part of the filing I went back to because this is important. So they did a lockup agreement saying that insiders can't sell, but in addition, we have agreed we will not conduct any issuance of shares of our common stock for a period ending the later of 90 days following closing of this offering, or the date upon which the registration of the shares of common stock underlying the private placement warrants is declared effective by the SEC. So it's the latter of the two. So they can't do it for 90 days because that's going to be the latter. So again, if you go to Google and you do December 18th plus 90 days, January 16th. So mark that on your calendars, because if you're still holding this and they don't have an offering, they don't have a buyout before January 16th, you best be prepared, because I would say with 98% certainty, maybe even higher, that come this day or shortly thereafter, you will see another dilution. Okay? And I'm not telling you any of this to scare you. I'm telling you this because I'm honest and I don't like people getting screwed. So you have to decide right now what you want to do with this stock. Is this something you're willing to hold in your portfolio, potentially long term, waiting for a buyout or waiting for a cloud in IT stocks to start picking up again? And we are seeing IT stocks pick up again. Even with crappy earnings, or even some of these companies like CrowdSource had great earnings, but it was they're honest with the fact that what they see ahead, they can't promise that they're going to have a good, earnings come next year because the economy is just crappy right now, guys. And, Wall Street takes a beating on that. It doesn't matter that they beat expectations by a crap ton. They still dumped on these stocks, but you're starting to see them go up. Look at IT and look at what sectors are hot right now. And even if you do a lot of reading like I do on the stock market every single day, that's what I pretty much do in my life. I read a lot and I investigate and I see where I think things are going. And I'm telling you, in 2023, we are going to see the switch, and we're starting to see it in preparation for it right now, back into these IT stocks and back into the biotech stocks. So be prepared, because that's where the money is. So could AVCT benefit from that? Yeah, they could. But again, in comparison, unfortunately, Candy's a great product, but we're not a CrowdForce. We're not a Cisco. We're not a Salesforce. We're not like Twilio. We're not like another major IT company. And I don't know, are they going to put money into these smaller companies too? I don't honestly know the answer to that. I think it'd be wise for them to invest in some of these smaller companies. But there's a lot of uncertainty in these smaller companies too. So you need to realize that Wall Street's going to look at that. My point in all this, guys, is we could see an influx of money into the IT sector. Will it go into the smaller ones? I'm not sure. Will it go into the larger ones? We're starting to see it happening because they're very, very discounted right now. You know, I could give you a list. If you follow me on Twitter, you see the stocks that I like that's in this field that I've been playing options in lately. Am I ready to sit down and add them to my portfolio? Not quite yet, but am I willing to ride these lows and play options as they pick back up? Heck yeah. Some of these have been paying very, very well. I mean, they've had runs. But again, I don't know what next year is going to bring. I think we made the bottom for now. But am I convinced that after the holidays, we're going to stay to the upside? I'm not. A lot of that's going to depend on what happens in this economy and if they can get inflation under control. If inflation gets under control and we see that they're able to continue reducing rates, guys, then the whole stock market as a whole, including AVCT, will benefit. However, if not, it's going to be very, very painful and it's going to get worse. It's been very, very painful. And a lot of these smaller stocks, and especially these IT stocks, some of them have been beat up for the last 2 to 5 years. Even when things were booming, they've been beaten up because IT just got, I don't know, whacked hard, I think, in comparison. And I don't know that it was justified, but that and biotech, it feels like it's been the past 10 years, but I think we're going to see some turnaround in this field. But I want you to think about that because it depends on what your goal in your portfolio is. If you're a buy and hold and you don't care and you're 5 to 10 years out, then yeah, I mean, hopefully a buyout would happen long before that. But guys, also with the economy getting bad, it might be harder to find somebody to buy it out. You know, I'm just being honest and I'm being real with you. And you have to decide. I mean, me personally, I think anybody that follows me knows I'm not married to any one stock. I have my portfolio very, very, very diversified. So personally, what am I going to do with this play? I'm confused. Honestly, I think that knowing what's coming in January, if we get a very nice run up, I'm probably going to sell a good chunk. I might hold on to some. Again, I don't have any more than 10% into any one stock. And in most stocks, I don't have more than 5% of my portfolio. Just being honest. So even if they dump, to me, it's not the end of the world. If this went to a penny, okay, it would stink. Of course, nobody wants to lose that kind of money, but it's not going to break me, if you know what I'm saying. So, but I'm telling you this because I know some of you go all in, which I would never advise, but it's your money. You can do what you want with it. But please know that these dates, they're very, very, very important. And please realize what's going to happen. I do think this week we get a huge run. And I'm being honest. You see it in my title. And, you know, take it or leave it, guys. I will always be honest with you. People either love me or hate me. It's been that way my entire life. You either think I'm great or you can't stand me. And I honestly don't care because I'm not here to make, people love me. I'm here to be honest and try to help people not lose money because this market's brutal and you'll get eaten alive. Trust me. We've all been there. Even people with a lot of experience, including myself, have been beat up and kicked up, and I don't like seeing it happen to me, and I certainly don't like seeing it happen to anyone else. So if I can save anybody some money, I try to show you what's coming. All right, look for the next video to come out. It's probably not going to come until tomorrow, but maybe later today because I have other things I need to get done and some other stocks I need to look at. But it's going to have the technical analysis that I see, which is kind of all falling into place for this to go on a run, guys. And huge update that you guys will be excited to see regarding institutional ownership and stuff. So we'll get that ready, and it'll be out either later today or tomorrow. So look for it. Have a great rest